Midnight Strike Through Mormons live stream. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, and today I'm joined in the studio by none other than Brittany the Shadow. We've got a pretty interesting show coming up today. We're actually following the hullabaloo that's going on down at Dodger Stadium. Looks like it's the Dodgers versus the drag queens versus the Catholics down at Dodger Stadium. If you're not familiar with what's going on, I would die to actually be there right now. Unfortunately, my work schedule prohibited me from being able to go down there. But on the next one, come hell or high water, if I got to take a sick day, I will go down there, especially to stand in solidarity with the good people that are down there. Now, before we go any farther, though, I do want to say I don't think this is just a cut and dry case, okay? This is a very heated topic. It is an important topic. And I do believe that both freedom of expression and freedom of religion are paramount. They're the exact same, okay, amendment in the Constitution. I am a big, huge First Amendment guy. So we need to make sure that we cover this topic with sobriety as well as passion. And I hope that we're going to be able to accomplish that here today. For those of you that are unaware of what's going on, okay, the Los Angeles Dodgers are the local baseball team, okay? They were, up until recently, my favorite baseball team, the only one I would actually root for, and the staple of Indulgence for the entire family of my wife, Brittany the Shadow. True. And they decided to invite a group called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to be part of their Pride celebration. Now, none of us really have a particular problem with Pride, as originally conceived at least, and nobody really has a problem with drag queens, you know, as long as, you know, they're doing drag. In fact, I actually kind of think a good solid drag show is pretty fun, and I think Catholics at this point in their liturgical history don't even really care if you kind of dress up like them too much for Halloween or you lampoon them a little bit in comic books. But see that now
when you're twerking on Jesus.
Okay, so that's what I was getting to.
Yeah. Is
Mormons, we don't really care that you disrespected the uniform of the Mormon missionary that all of us pledged our life to basically for 2 years. If you're doing a musical, okay, because we get it. But we have a problem when you start engaging in this. And this is when you go from being satire, because the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, they claim their First Amendment right to satirically lampoon the Catholic Church. And all of us, hey, we get that comedy pisses off half the people in the room. But to me, that there is a line between being an anti-Catholic group and then being comedians who happen to lampoon tropes, okay? And that's actually going to be one of the lines that we discuss today and actually see if we handle it correctly and if we come to the right conclusion. But anyway, this is what has made people question whether or not the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, our friends that you see here, are actually possibly more than just a satirical comedy group that supposedly tries to create awareness and protection for LGBT youth and people, and whether or not they're just a plain old anti-Catholic hate group. This is probably one of the most notorious things that got them into trouble that does not seem to have been a one-off. Here is a tweet of a recent escapade of theirs in Pride Month, on June 2nd, earlier this Pride Month. This, oops, excuse me there.
I don't even like watching this. It like sickens my soul.
Yeah, so here is a man playing the role of Jesus, notably Jesus Christ, who has another, presumably, Sister of Perpetual Indulgence, dressed in drag with stripper heels and great moves.
I wouldn't say great.
Yeah. Oh, you wouldn't say great? Okay. Well,
No.
you were a semi-pro dancer. So anyway, here we've got.
Thank you for not saying I was a stripper.
Yeah. We delineated
Whoa.
that. Yeah. So anyway, as you can see here, the next 30 seconds are going to be a little bit cray-cray. If you have children watching with you, you might want to cover their eyes. I'll make this only last about 15 seconds.
Dude,
okay?
I'm covering my eyes.
Yeah.
I can't watch this. It
But,
literally
yeah.
sickens me.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So anyway, all of this is indeed constitutionally protected speech. However, we do have to ask ourselves, is this a marginalized minority who's fighting for its right to just live? Because so far the narrative has been all of these groups, they're engaging in all of this, what some would consider disgusting, what others would at best consider, ooh, that's kind of edgelord humor. I don't know if I do that. This is coming from a guy, I got squeamish when Steven Crowder did his Bob Ross of Muhammad. Like, sincerely held religious beliefs, man. Dude, you better have a home run if you're going to start joking about that stuff.
Garden.
You come at the king, you better not miss. And to me, that's...
Sorry,
what?
I'm also chewing a Rice Krispie treat.
Okay.
I was going to say, though, anyone that has time to twerk on Jesus and dress up like a stripper, you're not oppressed. If you have time to do that, you're not oppressed.
That's actually a very good point. And
Thank you.
You can't say, oh, well, we're just marginalized minorities who are fighting for our right. To what? What's the right you're claiming? And at this point, we need to stop calling these people marginalized if we've reached a point where every single company logo has to change for an entire month, or else the Human Rights Campaign is going to drop their ESG score and then have a huge giant boycott of them and their product. And you're protected enough by the populace at large that you can literally take the cross. Notice they would never do this to anything Muslim. Okay. There's a reason why Andrew Tate didn't convert to Christianity. And there's a reason why he ended up converting to Islam. And he literally said it because Islamic people actually respect themselves, and they're the only religion that has respect anymore. I don't know if necessarily enforcement through violence is the way to earn that respect, but enforcement through protest, I think, is actually good, which is what is happening down in Dodger Stadium now. We're actually going to open up the hashtag here, okay? And just give you guys a little tour of what's going on in Dodger Stadium. Some big names have showed up for Dodger Stadium for a protest here. You can see there's Jack Posobiec, okay, and there's going to be a prayerful procession through Dodger Stadium. I've actually checked this thing out, and I've looked at it myself, and indeed it so far has been a good, peaceful protest that has been very widely appreciated by not just the Catholic faith organization. There have been many members of all kinds of Judeo-Christian stripes of life, shall we say, that have been represented. I question whether or not our church is there. I'm sure there's actually individual members, because many members helped the Knights of Columbus, a Catholic group, in 2008 during Proposition 8, and fomented some ties there. But they're engaged in a big, giant, peaceful protest over the Los Angeles Dodgers choosing to invite the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to their Pride event today. Now, there was a hullabaloo. They were disinvited after a lot of Catholic organizations said, hey, dude, no, look, it's one thing to invite the drag queens, and it's another thing to invite those drag queens that specifically lampoon us, our sacred icons, our sacred uniforms, and our sacred beliefs. And I know tons.
Can we call a spade a spade? Like, they are a hate group. I would classify them as a hate group. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. I would classify them as a hate group.
And why would you classify them as a hate group?
Because they're specifically targeting a group of people, the Catholics.
Yeah. And now, and by the way, I'm just fleshing this out so people understand where I stand, and I'm just I'm bouncing ideas off you.
Oh, do you disagree with me?
I wouldn't know. No, this is a mental exercise.
Oh.
Why is Joe Rogan not an anti-Mormon, despite the fact that he's made anti-Mormon commentary?
Because that's not what he specifically makes all his videos about. That's not his identity.
So it hasn't converted into his personality. See, that's the difference between somebody who's just a church critic. Let's just say there's some atheist out there who has a completely naturalistic, what's called logical positivist perception of life, and only wants to see things that he has proof of, and he doesn't see proof of God, though I find this a troglodyte point of view. I understand, fine, that's where you're coming from, and if he says some anti-Mormon stuff because he's an atheist, oh, okay, fine. He hasn't converted his entire identity into fighting the church specifically of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That would then make him not just a critic, a faith critic, a critic of religion. That would make him an anti-Mormon, such as Bill Reel, such as RFM, such as John DeLynn. And now you're saying, Brittany, if I understand you correctly, that the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have crossed that line for you from being...
A couple times, maybe.
Yeah,
Not just one cross. There's multiple crossings of that line.
Yeah, okay. Well, you're in good company. The pictures of the Nationals actually agreed with you.
I usually am in good company.
Yeah, well, you go, girl.
Yeah.
And actually...
Also, before you go on, though, we do have a super chat.
Oh, keepers of the chats.
Yes.
Tell us. What do we miss?
Okay. It's from Dec or Dis, as in December. I don't know. It's DEC.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, he just sent a super chat. So thank you.
Oh, and that was all it was just a random
Yeah, I
super
think
chat?
you have the wrong chat.
Yeah, you're right.
Yours.
I'm going to have to pull this up again really fast. So I'm opening up the dock of the chat, and hopefully it'll reload the chat to have the new chat. Oh, my goodness. Wait, why is chat disabled for this live stream? That cannot be. Oh, well, anyway, I guess I'm just going to have to do it the old school way on the board right here. So thank you very much, Dec. Yeah, I see it just like December. Thank you very much. Good to see a lot of other people in chat. Dean, Keith, how you guys doing? So as we were saying, they've crossed this line. And so this is not a good summer for Pride. Between the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light thing, between the where to tuck your Johnson swimsuits at Target getting boycotted, between Call of Duty going woke and getting rid of Nick Merck, between 15 different companies from the North Face to apparently now Dodger Stadium making bad moves. I think we really have to ask ourselves, have we reached a turning point where, just like Jordan Peterson says, we know what happens when the right goes too far. We know what happens when the right goes too far. The Trevor Project was based off of a young man named Trevor, who I believe was gay bashed in Wyoming and beaten. He was he was killed by homophobic people who could be considered an example of right-wing violence. When the right goes too far, yeah, that's what happens, and it needs to be censured. Jesus Christ said those who offend children deserve a millstone around their neck. Those who violate children. I think any kind of pastor, any kind of church that violates a child deserves a millstone around his neck. But queer theory and the Jesus of queer theory, Dr. Money, has advocated openly for normalizing pedophilia and pederastic relationships between young boys and men. And I think that needs to be censured just as hard as the Catholic priest scandal was censured. And as Jordan Peterson said, when does the left go too far? I think we're really discovering that line, and we're discovering it very quickly, and people are getting fed up with having pride shoved in their face in a manner that's not just like, hey, let's celebrate with these fellow members of our society. They may not fit into a customary binary. No, instead, you're basically told that you're a bad person if you don't like the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence literally twerking all over a man who is meant to represent Jesus Christ.
I don't want to see it anymore.
Okay, I know, but it's important. It's actually going to be a theme of this live stream. We're going to have Jacob Hansen come in here and show us just exactly how ugly it gets when you go anti-religious. And he's made a very good supercut of all the different, places and ugly logical conclusions that you end up in when you do indeed go anti-religious. And we're not just talking twerking on Jesus. We're talking about nihilism. Brittany, you want to say something before Jacob jumps in?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you were going to talk about it earlier. The Dodgers pitcher that made a statement?
It was the Nationals. Yeah, the Nationals pitcher.
No, but the Dodgers one did too, I thought.
There's been several.
Mistaken?
There's been, the first one that came out was Trevor Williams. Oh. Okay. And when Trevor Williams came out, okay, this is Trevor Williams right here, actually, came out, he talked about his faith journey. And how basically, the Catholic Church is his sincerely held religious belief, and that what the Sister Perpetual Indulgence are doing is not just satirical lampooning of a faith group. It is actually a hate group. And if we're going to allow the term hate group to dictate part of our public discourse, we need to be consistent in that. And I really stand with Trevor Williams on this. I think he's a brave person for standing up and actually saying all this. But before we go any farther, I think we can invite a friend of ours into the chat. As promised yesterday, we are graced by the presence of none other than Jacob Hansen. Jacob, how are you doing, my man?
Doing all right. How are you, Carden?
I can't complain. We're actually talking a little bit about what's going on down in Dodger Stadium.
Excuse me. Hi, Jacob.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Gosh.
I'm here with, lovely Brittany the Shadow. Okay. And before we talk about your video, we're going to wrap up what's going on in Dodger Stadium and just follow a couple of the really interesting comments that have been made. And we might be dipping back in during our stream on some streams that are happening down there and checking in with our Catholic brothers and sisters down at Dodger Stadium. You got any thoughts on what's going down at Dodger Stadium, my man?
Yeah, I'm a big... It's funny. I'm actually a big fan of Catholicism. I have to give a big shout out to all my Catholic friends. I went to Catholic schools growing up. I actually was a student body president, a Mormon student body president of a Catholic high school. I even attended their religious retreat they did for the students, and was actually I was one of the Kairos leaders, it was called, on the Kairos retreat. And to be totally frank, it was one of the most important spiritual experiences of my life. It wasn't a super, into Catholic doctrine per se. It was very much focused on getting to know the love of God in your life. And so, yeah, what they're doing is abhorrent. It's awful. And I'm with every one of the Catholics that are standing up against this. We're with you. And I wish our church would issue a statement on the matter and condemn this explicitly and outright. Has the church said anything?
See, I've actually been I have bemoaned myself the underwhelming response I've seen from our church. And that's actually why I was going to, you unfortunately can't see it because of your, the way you're operating Zoom on your phone, but I'm going to put this up on the screen for all the rest of the audience to see right now. They've actually forced shut Gate A, which is the principal gate at Dodger Stadium, in order for all of these protesters to come through. And I got to tell you, this protest is getting very, very large. I have not seen a Christian militant presence this size in Los Angeles, I think, in living memory, okay? And here is a rabbi, a Jewish brother, making a very, very good point here that I'm not hearing from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in solidarity with our Catholic brothers. Now, by the way, before you think this is some just big conservative moan fest, we're going to round this corner, and I'm going to point out some things that maybe our conservative brothers and sisters haven't thought of quite yet. But this is a rabbi standing up for his Catholic brothers and sisters right here.
And if you're anti-Catholic, you're anti-religion, you're anti-God. I got a problem with that. A little over 2,000 years ago, there was a Rabbi Hillel. He said, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I'm and if you're
okay, so
you're
he kind of makes a traditional cry for Judeo-Christian values. And what's very interesting is not just the rabbis showing up, okay, but also we have the ex-sheriff showing up, Villanueva, registered Democrat who started giving CCWs to all of the CCWs to everybody in
all the commoners
in Los Angeles County, where for 30 years you actually couldn't have CCWs. And he said something super interesting. I'm going to try and pull it up here. It is right here in his Stetson. Now, of course, people are hating him. This guy named Scott, with his hashtag disorderly swine, at least he's honest, says, LA Sheriff's Department crime boss Alex, 80% of my officers are far right, Villanueva, at the anti-LGBTQ rally at Dodger Stadium, which, by the way, you need to stop people from doing this. It's called the Mott Bailey substitute. All of us agree that LGBTQ people should be protected, that just for your sexual orientation, you should not be gay bashed, you should not be subject to violence. I am a fan of what the Rainbow Road does. They take men and women who are gay and get them visas to countries where they will not be put to death for their sexual orientation. Okay. I don't think anybody really has a problem with that, but that is being against people that are truly anti-LGBT. Okay. But simply saying, hey, treat me with respect is not anti-LGBT. And this was actually brought up by the sheriff, registered Democrat in Los Angeles. Let's see what Villanueva here has to say.
Buddhists, you name it, everyone should stand up and say, respect religion. It's a real simple thing. So if anyone had the occasion to read that letter, that long, painful letter that the Dodgers wrote apologizing, how many believe they have another longer, painful letter to write?
Now, that's actually where I think we as members of the church step in. Far too long, far too long, previous generations of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints have chosen to get rich off the generally pro-Judeo-Christian society that we live in and be on autopilot, frankly, thinking that, oh, if there's controversy, then we just really won't address it, we'll ignore it. Well, when you ignore it, it festers, and it goes from being a funny meme like the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence originally started out as, to all of a sudden being Jesus Christ being twerked upon by a man who is faking he's a stripper on the cross, okay? And these are two totally different things that really should be shunned by a decent society.
And can I say, like, it's not even like twerking on a man like dressed up like Jesus. It's depicting Jesus on the cross in his most humbling moment and his most probably humiliating moment in his life. They're depicting that instant in Jesus's life. And that's despicable.
Yeah, this is a challenge question that I have for any pro-LGBTQ person right now who is on the side of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Would you dress up with a feathered headdress, traditional Navajo or Shoshone garb? And would you put the chieftain of the Tatavian Indian tribe of California, of the Chumash of Northern California, would you put them on a stage depicting an Indian burial ground and then put a stripper with a feather on their hat to start stripping on that Indian burial ground, disrespecting one of the most sacred places of perhaps that Indian tribe? And the only answer you have for that, if you have internal integrity, intellectual honesty, and even remote amounts of credibility, is yes. And that's just gross and despicable. But at least you say yes. Am I missing anything before we go on to your video, Jacob?
Not in particular. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on here. There are people who hate the Judeo-Christian values because the Judeo-Christian values hold to a traditional family model. And at the end of the day, that same movement is working to try and infiltrate the church to undermine the family proclamation. And I would just say that standing up to this, remember, this isn't us being mean to them. It is us saying that we have our beliefs and they are the ones going out humiliating and shaming our beliefs, portraying them as ridiculous and hateful. And so to stand up to defend yourself is not bigotry. It's not homophobia. It's simply, we live in a free country. People can do what they want, but you can't, we're not going to see that this is anything more than absolutely morally repugnant.
So how do we push back? Here's my question. How do we push back? Villanueva, registered Democrat, sheriff of the most liberal county in the United States of America, says, oh, if you think they got a strongly worded letter from the LGBTQ community, wait till they see the strongly worded letter that they'll get from us, or something along those lines. Do you think just strongly worded letters that we all know don't really work is the key? Do you think it is the boycotts, which finally Christians decided to start boycotting after 100 years of deciding not to? What do you think is the proper modus operandi of somebody who wants to respectfully engage in society society, respect the First Amendment, show love to all of, his LGBTQ brothers and sisters, but also stop and say, okay, enough. You've gone this far and can go no further. What do you think is the proper formula?
You have to change the culture. At the end of the day, like those who want to, let's create some law or public policy. Let's use the violence of the state to go after those who don't think or act like us. That's not the solution. The solution is that we need to change the narrative. We need to recognize that there are people out there who hate us as traditional believers in God and Christianity and traditional family values, and they want to destroy what we have and what we have built, and they will do everything they can to mock, to ridicule, and to fight back against that. We need people to be educated and understand that is what these people are doing. They have an agenda. Like, stop painting this as this simple narrative of like, oh, well, they're just like these poor innocent victims and there are all these mean homophobic people out there. Like, that isn't the way it is. Like, the rainbow flag has gone from this symbol of people that were on the outside of society maybe, to now it's the most celebrated. I mean, they have an entire month dedicated to their celebration, right? Like, other groups don't have that. And frankly, now it's turned from, if you don't celebrate, you are attacked. And so this has gone way beyond toleration. It's essentially cultural.
It's preferential treatment, I think, is what you're trying to say. You're trying to say this has gone beyond asking somebody, hey, we're here, we're queer, and we want our rights. Okay, we all believe everybody should have their rights, but it's gone from tolerance to preferential treatment, I believe, is your claim, correct?
And you have to celebrate them. And anyone who does not celebrate them or who believes that this sort of behavior is in any way immoral, you're the bigot. You're the one who has something wrong with you, and you need to be put on the outskirts of society, and you need to be marginalized.
Okay, cool, awesome. So what we're going to do here is I want to actually emphasize a video that you actually made recently that I thought really segues into what's going on. You just mentioned, Jacob, like, you need to understand these people hate us. That this isn't just Democrats and Republicans in 1982 meeting over a steak dinner to argue about whether or not taxes should be 13 or 15%. Okay, like that's not where we're at anymore. Okay, these people hate us. They do not want the church to exist. They've tried to take away the 501c3 status. They have vandalized the buildings. They've tried to arson and burn them down. They have engaged in physical violence, even killing members of our faith. Don't forget, it was a BLM marcher in Provo that shot that person through the car. Okay, like I mean, this is not, as you said, just this, as Dan McClellan says, a persecuted minority or a marginalized minority in the nomenclature of the proto-Marxist. I would actually argue that the secular religion of pride is the predominant majority now, and that the minority is the actual practicing true Christian believer. And that's the minority that needs protection right now. Because
absolutely. Think about this. Are you really marginalized when you have an entire month dedicated to celebrating your orientation? I heard somebody say that there's certain groups that are just loved for just existing, right? Like, you just have to exist and you're valued and celebrated. And gay people.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
I would also say that women are valued just for being women. Children are loved just for being children. Dogs are loved just for being dogs. Gay people are loved for just being gay. But what if you're a man? Like, if you're a man, like,
you get Father's Day. Hello.
Yeah, but also let's be honest about Father's Day. Nobody knows what month's it in.
It's on Sunday.
Yeah, but we kind of just do it because we like we don't celebrate Father's Day like we do Mother's Day.
Well, maybe men don't know when Father's Day is because, once again, women have to remember everything and get you the gift.
Savage. All right. So anyway, okay. The point of this podcast was to actually say, hey, look, these people really do hate us, and we're not speaking hyperbolically. Okay. We're showing you the actual videos of them not just dressing in drag, which all of us kind of think can be a little bit funny and cool. Let me tell you, I dig my dead drops at a drag show just like anybody else. All right. And they're not just kind of doing the fun uniform and costume. It's actually become a big anti-religious strip show that has to be shoved in your face under duress of being called a bigot or a hateful person and having your business boycotted, having your livelihood taken away, having your life made to be just basically miserable unless you go along with what is now the secular religion. Okay. So Jacob Hansen, our buddy here, has made a really interesting video that's a supercut that is obviously lampooning many of the biggest anti-Mormons. What did you title it, Jacob? What's it titled?
I think it was just by their fruits was the, ex-Mormon icons by their fruits.
Okay, but didn't you like say something like "Where will you go" or something like that? Or
that was in the video at the end. Is where will you go? Because what I wanted to do is just kind of give a little bit of background on the video.
Okay.
I've been interacting with a lot of ex members, and I have for a long time, and I've followed some of their content, but I really started to dig into some of it in recent months, probably the last 6 months or so. And I really wanted to see, like, okay, well, what do these people believe now? Like, it's one thing to say what you don't believe, right? Like,
yeah,
we all get that. The question is, what do you believe? And what I found was it was shocking to me, honestly. And so as I listened to these things, I would note down things that I would hear. And eventually I kind of realized that I had all these notes of different things that I had heard and seen over the past months, as I kind of as a podcast junkie and constantly listening to things. And so I had kind of all these, things that had been said that I thought were just like, man, this is crazy. And I put it together to kind of give an illustration of what, great, you left the church. Where are you going now? Like, I don't care what you don't believe. Like, what do you believe? And what manifests in their attitudes and the way that they think and their views on things like agency, their views on drugs, their views on sexuality, they really go into some places that I wanted people to be aware of. Because if you're going to hold up these people as these icons, it's kind of like, well, let's see what they have to say.
Okay, speaking of which, before we see what they have to say, I'm going to address a super chat. By the way, if you guys have any questions for young Jacob Hansen here, who's actually for the first time bearded in a long time, if you have any questions for him or his beard, just make sure you super chat us and we'll read it on screen. Jonah Barnes asked a question. Keepress of the chats, can you read Jonah Barnes' super chat for us?
I shall. Thank you. Catholics rock. We don't have many traditional value friends left. Share this stream with some of those few. We got to stick together. Jacob's beard is muy caliente.
Ooh, you got muy caliente by Jonah Barnes. That's about as complimentary as it gets. It's like,
I had more hair on my head.
Lots of girls that have a crush on you will tell you that, hey, you look good in that outfit. But when one of your gay buddies says you're looking good, then it's like, okay, all right, now I know I'm really top notch.
Are you calling Jonah
what I'm
gay?
saying? No, I'm just saying that if Jonah actually says that your beard is muy caliente, then that's about as caliente gets. So, I can see why you might take that away, though, Brittany. You're right. There is some logical.
I just didn't know where you were going there.
Yeah, there is some internal.
I'm not gonna lie. There's a little bit of bromance between me and Jonah.
Oh
okay, cool.
Everyone that comes in this studio has a bromance, and I'm just sitting over here like.
It's not gay if there's guns in the room. Okay. That's all I can say. Okay?
Let's get to this video, shall we?
Okay, so anyway, here we go. Not Jonah Barnes, Jacob Hansen, in his really interesting video. Let's watch it here, just with Jacob present, and let's see how it goes. Super cool intro.
Disclaimer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Mormon Stories Podcast. I am your host, as always, John DeLynn. I first learned about Mike back in 2004, 2005, when Mike, along with his friend whose code name was Hiram, started a podcast called The Church Is Not True. And
by the way, why do they always have like these porn star names when they're trying to lampoon the church? Like, I don't know. We'll keep going. I'm not going to interrupt too much.
That was a podcast that I listened to before I started Mormon Stories Podcast, and that was part of an inspiration for me to start Mormon Stories podcast. As far as I know, Mike was the first, if not one of the first people to record the LDS Church's temple ceremonies and put them on the internet.
Somebody who works in the adult film industry was made aware of this brouhaha on Reddit. This person contacted me and essentially said, I think there's some real potential here to make some serious money, and if you're serious about this, if you can make this happen.
Okay, catch us up, Jacob. For those of us that can't believe what we're hearing, catch us up right now and tell us what on earth is happening.
So Mike Norton is someone in the ex-Mormon community that John Dehlin even says was part of the inspiration for him starting the Mormon Stories podcast. This is a guy who for years has gone into temples, forged recommends, given recommends to random people so that they could go in and basically be in the temple when they're not supposed to be in the temple, and films it and then posts it on the internet. And John Dehlin, knowing that this is the kind of person he's dealing with, decides to have him on his podcast to kind of do the Mike Norton's Mormon story. You know what I'm saying? And so that interview is just shocking to me. Now, I will, just for clarity's sake, this incident where Mike Norton wanted to try and was attempting to have a porn star go in with another porn star and do a scene in a temple to make money. This happened after he did his interview with Dehlin, and Dehlin since then has distanced himself from Norton. But regardless,
but nobody else has.
Happened,
wait, hold on a second. He's distanced. Okay. That's funny. I didn't hear it, and none of the other anti-Mormons have. Let's go to your video.
Regardless of any of that, the point is that this is the kind of person that he is buddying up with, talking with on his podcast, knowing full well that this guy goes into temples to film them and, thinks that that's totally fine.
Well, let's see what RFM and Bill Reel had to say. We're going to continue with your video here. Press play.
I would see things like, I won't give names, but, a prominent ex-member trying to sneak a porn star into a temple to film a lesbian sex scene. And I'm like,
you say that like there's something wrong with it.
Like, that's not how that's, you don't do that.
Like, look.
And he's like old. Like, that's just gross. Like, it's even worse.
Yeah, I can't believe.
I get the cringe.
Yeah,
I'm getting the cringe.
Look, Kwaku, during that interview, he might have been a minor still. He might have literally, but like Kwaku doesn't know his age. He was born in a cult on the East Coast in North Carolina. And when his mother escaped the cult and things like that, he was kind of put in school when people thought he was big enough. And now it's not known if he graduated high school as a 16-year-old or a 19-year-old. And when you look at pictures of him when I met him, like supposedly only about 18 or 19 years old, he looks so much younger than he does now, only like 4 years later. I think he might have been only like 17 when he started his work as an apologist on the internet. Okay. So it's kind of hilarious now when you think, wow, there's a 17-year-old telling a 65-year-old that, oh yeah, maybe you shouldn't sneak pornographic actresses into holy temples of worship in order to have them film lesbian sex scenes on what some would consider hallowed ground of sincerely held religious beliefs. And again, anti-Mormons that are watching this, do you think that John Dehlin and his buddies should be able to take a PORN star, an adult film actress who's of Native American descent, and sneak 3 or 4 of her other fellow friends of Native American descent onto an Indian burial ground and perform those same videotaped acts of human intercourse on that hallowed ground of the Native Americans? And if you have intellectual honesty and internal integrity, you would say yes to that. But we all know that would be gross and indecent. So why do you say it's okay to do with Catholics or with Mormons? Let's continue with Jacob's video here. We're not going to watch the whole thing. We're just going to watch some of the top 5 that he brings to our attention. Here we go, Jacob.
breaking the laws and disrespecting people's sacred beliefs and whatever, you're basically saying civil disobedience, unjust laws, unjust rules.
Oh, so this is all just civil disobedience. Interesting.
That in those cases, whatever harm may be affected, the good that comes out of it makes the disobedience or the disrespect worth it. That's basically.
Okay.
What kind of therapist is he?
That's
He's not.
Yeah, obviously.
In the state. He's not licensed in the state of Utah, even though he could be. He chooses not to be. He decides to be a life coach. So that way he can't be accountable to any sorts of professional boards.
Like, if he were I literally would get a new one. Like,
yeah.
you're telling me I have to go do this because it's going to be ultimate for the good? What?
Yeah,
Like,
so just remember, he's saying that a lot of good comes from this. Like that this is all just freedom fighting. This isn't a guy, profaning what some people consider sacred iconography. Okay. Jesus Christ being put on a stripper pole with a cross. That's not at best or at worst disrespectful to him. No, they're all just freedom fighters, So anyway, let's let him finish his video here. Let's see.
And then he has some super
Is
chats.
that fair to summarize that way?
Yeah, I mean the only harm is it's harming the church financially. That's the harm.
So a person doesn't choose to be sexually attracted to children. Can they choose whether or not to actually have sex with children?
Yes and no. She said child predators aren't choosing to do that. They are predisposed genetically to doing such.
Ew.
Now we can go like, man, I wish there was a God and I wish that things were choices and I wish there was agency. But if there is an agency, there just is an agency and we have to deal with that.
You wouldn't fault a tree for growing incorrectly. I don't really fault anyone for being the product of their genetics. And their
Oh, so
that's a nature versus nurture thing, girlfriend.
Oh, yeah. Well, so what have you found their argument is here, that we just can't be angry at people who are attracted to minors and behave in inappropriate ways with them, or what?
This is what happens when you reject the concept of agency. Remember, you don't make choices. You don't choose anything. You are the product of your genetics. What you do, this is what happens. Bill Reel and Nuance Ho, I think her name's Kara, they reject the idea of free will or the idea of agency. And the problem is, if you reject the idea of agency, you also reject the idea of any sort of moral accountability. Because if you don't choose what you do, then you're not accountable for it. And that includes, like in that case, for pedophiles. He's saying, like, when you ask, does a person have the choice to not rape a child? The answer is, of course a person can choose not to rape a child. But he says, well, not really, because we don't have the ability to make our choices. Our choices are determined by our biology.
Okay, question.
And by other factors.
Do these people have children? Do we know that?
Yes. Bill Reel does, although he regrets having them.
Yeah, he's literally said he...
I don't know any parent that would be like, you know what, if this pedophile wants to come over and watch my kids, I mean... Well, that's just what they're going to do. I mean, I can't stop them. They're genetics. Like, what in the world?
And my schedule dictates that I have to be somewhere else right now, and I'm just a product of my schedule and my environment. So here's the keys, Dr. John Money. You know what I'm saying? I don't
like,
really
I don't even care if they're ex-Mormon, anti-Mormon. Like, I don't care. Like, you're just stupid. Like, I have no other words to call. Like, that is idiotic thinking.
Okay, now, before we start throwing all of the anti-Catholics and Christians under the bus, there's only one argument that I've seen from the other side that I think holds water. And that has a lot of people that say, hey, wait, where were you when the Catholic scandal was going down in Los Angeles? And I'm a Los Angeles-based radio host, and outside of Boston, it didn't get too much worse than it did here in Los Angeles with what the Archbishop here did with funneling people around. So I stand with the Catholics in solidarity of the fact that a society should not engage in the indecent displays of anti-Christian iconography that, if done to Muslims or done to Native Americans, we would consider ungodly, okay? I 100% support that. However, at the same token, Catholic Church, you have to get this under control You got to get that beam out of your own eye. You know what I'm saying? Or else you leave a giant blind spot for people to make the counter argument of, well, where were you 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when all of this was happening to children? Now you say, keep it out of the face of our kids. Well, you know, here's a mirror, buddy. So what would you say to those people that are making what I perceive as not a strong argument, but an argument, I shouldn't say not.
Here's what I would say. I'd say, where did you get the idea that that there were any sort of sexual standards whatsoever? You got that from your Christian heritage. Because if you go back to Greece and to Rome and to the world that the Catholics actually kind of changed, it was them who introduced into those pagan cultures the standards by which you are judging the Catholic Church. You are upset at the Catholic Church for Christian reasons, okay? Because it was Christianity that instilled in the West these values that we now judge them by. You wouldn't, like the Crusades, right? The reason we're all upset about the Crusades is because the Crusaders had a cross on their shields. And so we are judging them by a Christian standard. If they didn't have a cross on their shield, let's say they had maybe a Mongol symbol, like Genghis Khan's symbol, or Alexander the Great symbol, or an Incan symbol, we would have been just like, oh yeah, you know, business as usual. The whole reason we can tell, C.S. Lewis said, the only way you can tell a line is crooked is if you have a straight line to compare it with. And the whole thing is, who gave us that straight line? It was the Christian tradition. And it was largely through the Catholic Church that tradition spread to the world. Now,
so what, they're off the hook because they gave us traditional morality?
No, what I'm saying is that you have to recognize that these things happen in spite of Catholicism and in spite of Christianity, not because of it. And the only reason you're outraged of it was because of the values that were taught to you by a Christian culture.
Okay, cool. That's fair enough. Well, let's continue with your video. See what we got going on.
We also have
here.
A super chat.
Oh, yes. Keepers of the chat. Yes. Hit us.
Okay. Hold on. I got to scroll. Okay. D. Carts says, does the organization of the church have to exist for the key of the priesthood to exist? Could Salt Lake City fall, the church too, and we keep the keys? In other words?
Ooh, that's a Jacob Hansen question. Go.
No, the keys actually are the institution of the church. God would need to restore the keys if the keys were taken away from the earth. He would need to do that himself because he's the one who holds the keys of the kingdom. And that's what, the keys of the kingdom are the essential structure of the church. Without the keys, you don't have the church. You can have a body of believers, like great, yay, but if you don't have the keys, then you don't have the ability to effectuate the ordinances of salvation or basically build the kingdom of God on earth, because you can only build that kingdom with the keys on the macro scale.
Okay. See, that's what I was going to say. But, I didn't want to, take away the opportunity.
Yeah, same.
Of Jacob Hansen here to
We're
give that,
so kind,
to
Carden.
give that very profound
kind
answer that was on the tip of my tongue. But,
You know what's funny though? When I first read that super chat, I thought at first it said, "Can we keep the keys in other worlds?" And I was like, Quaku, where you at?
Now we're talking. All right. Okay, so what's the next one? Yeah,
okay,
hit us with the other super chats.
Dean Schwank says, "Oh, just a super chat. Thank you."
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Dean. Hit it.
And then Austin Fife, Fifi,
okay.
not sure.
It's Fifi.
Fifi.
Okay.
Keep fighting the good fight, y'all. Need more Jonah Barnes, FYI.
Yeah, we do need more Jonah Barnes whenever possible. So, where you at, Jonah? Anyway, anything else? Any other super chats before we continue?
I think that was the last one.
Okay, yeah. Good, awesome. We're all caught up on super chats.
Okay, thank you.
Now we're gonna go back to seeing just exactly how bad it is out there, according to the super cut by our good friend Jacob Hansen. Go.
Conditioning. So,
I've never heard someone say, "Man, I wish I didn't have that last child that I have." They really are.
I wish I would have not had any children because I wasn't equipped to do it.
Oh man,
my gosh.
Dude.
Screw you, dude. Like, that's what I want to say.
Ready is a lie. Ready is a lie. The biggest lie that the devil tells anybody is not to do some of these important rites of passage and steps in their lives until they're ready, knowing full well that ready never comes. That I just
well, and then like, is he like lazy? Like, man up. Like, do you think I was equipped to have a kid with cancer? No, but I womaned up. Like, it's just, I don't know. And to say that you regret having your kid, that's
like,
demonic.
How great do you feel being this guy's kid right now?
Right?
Yeah, I wish I hadn't have had you, man. Yeah, you should have been A-worded because my life would have been more convenient because I wasn't ready. Like, okay. Sorry, keep going.
Everyone should go watch our episode we did on the death cult. This is
yeah.
death cult stuff.
Okay.
And you're going to see that theme play out here. You can see there's a disdain for life.
Okay, here we go. Let's keep going. Let them speak for themselves.
No, actually, you guys want to hear something though?
What?
Nihilism, free will, determinism, and nihilism is why I am also here today. Not only because I mentioned free will kind of got me off of the Mormon track, but and then you have to have a certain amount of like nihilism to see yourself as like, I'm not a spirit daughter, I'm not a chosen, like all of that shit that you're like, oh, I'm not part of like the really cool kids club that got the gospel, and you're like, well, what is the point of life and everything? And then I think everyone has to go through like a little bit of a nihilist phase and like, what's the meaning of it all? But I don't want to get a tattoo, but I really do just want to, I wear this circle every single day to remind me that life is like a circle because it's pointless.
All time in eternity. All time in eternity.
But I believe.
Wow. Dude, like, I gotta tell you, and that was the biggest criticism Sean McCraney had, and the reason why we won the debate with RFM, hands down, according to everybody that actually watched it, is first off, we won the first 3 minutes, and that's all most people watch of any YouTube videos anyway. I offered the microphone one last time to Bill Reel, and he cowardly backed out, showing exactly how he was a coward. And done that. All of the Gen Z kids I've talked, it's funny, only boomers think that, like I know Jim Bennett thought that we lost that debate somehow, but what's hilarious, he doesn't realize we totally won the first 3 minutes. Therefore, we completely won. And the biggest home run hit that day was RFM stepping in it and quoting Cain. Sean McCraney asked him, after you're done deconstructing somebody's faith, through your constant criticism of the church, and they descend into nihilism, just like your girl just mentioned here 5 seconds ago. He literally said, it's, quote, scorched effing earth out there. And these people, they get suicidal, they get self-deprecating, they lose everything. What responsibility do you have, RFM, of supporting them after you've taken out that support system? And he literally just tried to give the most horrible, crappy, libertarian, capitalist response out there that, oh, you know, I don't have any responsibilities, people. I should be able to criticize as I see fit, and I have freedom of speech, and yada, yada, this and that. And he literally, utterly quoted Cain, saying, after I destroy somebody's faith and I take down their support system, I am not their keeper. And I am not my brother's keeper. They can descend into nihilism, and I don't have to reach in and grab them out because I am not morally obligated to them. Why? Because we're all just a bunch of meat computers that got here through a random process called evolution that cannot even explain itself, but I know gets me off the hook. And I literally, this is why we won the debate. I turned to him and I was like, you know, next time you're in a debate with people and you're trying to say that, oh, we're the loving alternative to a cruel and dogmatic faith, don't quote Cain. Because I believe I am my brother's keeper. If you are gay and you are struggling with that, I believe I am morally obligated to help you. I have to mourn with those who mourn, and I need to bear the burdens of those that bear a burden. You got gender dysphoria, I will walk with you, okay? You have a problem with booze, alcohol, drugs. You don't like paying tithing. You're just depressed. You're angry. Whatever it is. I probably got a similar problem, and we need to I don't just need to walk with you, we probably need to walk together. And the person that's going to walk with us best is going to be Jesus Christ and his doctrine that helps heal us all right? So I believe I am fundamentally my brother's keeper. After you deconstruct things, the way these guys deconstruct things, you're not. And you become literally like Cain. And the fact that we nailed that one out of the park completely made up for anything they think we didn't perform well enough previously. So, Jacob, I'm sorry, I veer verbose. Did I miss anything? Is there anything you would like to add to that before we continue with your video?
No, I think you're hitting it on the head.
Okay, cool. Good on you. Okay, now here we go.
Life is worth it. And I believe that we can learn through these things and we can come.
Life is worth it for some human beings. Some human beings live in absolute misery.
So what should they do? Well, okay. Oh, hold on. What's he going to say?
There are sadly situations in which suicide is very likely not preventable. There are people for whom mental illness is a terminal disease, similar to certain physical illnesses. There are people who have intractable and treatment-resistant mental illnesses who are of sound mind and who have capacity, who ultimately make that decision for themselves.
Wait. So you're literally saying there are people who are human beings that we just can give up on?
Well, and she said you're mentally ill, but you're of a sound mind. What? Which way is it?
And that's she's going towards basically saying that we need to respect. And if you want to continue to roll, she basically says that we need to respect people who commit suicide because that can be a morally legitimate decision for certain people.
No, I don't even think respect somebody who self-terminates. No, not only do we respect them, we mourn them. Okay, and we try and prevent it.
Respect the decision.
I think she's talking. No, to me, this smacks. Do you know what this smacks of? This smacks of what they're doing in Canada, the medically assisted self-termination. Let's let her finish. Here. I want to make sure I'm not putting words in her mouth. Let's see what she says here.
I'm not saying that I think it's the right decision. I'm not saying I think it's a good decision, but
I don't know. You're advocating for it. I don't know. It kind of sounds like okay. Let's let you go.
Do honor and respect that it was their decision, and I do think that part of the conversation.
Stop right there.
Okay.
She says, but we have to respect that it was their decision. Yeah, we know it was their decision. That's not saying anything. I hate when people say, well, but it's their decision. That is a statement that is meaningless. We all know it's their decision. The question is it the right decision?
You could say that about an SCOOL shooter. You could literally say, well, it was their decision. But what's that mean?
Exactly. But what it communicates is that, well, they get to make that decision and I don't get to make any sort of a judgment on if that was the right or wrong decision. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, tell that to the, we can't judge if somebody, just go on. You can hear what she says. It's the death cult.
Okay. Do you have any super chats that we got to keep up on with Brittany?
Yes.
I don't want to fall behind here. Hit us with the super chat.
I think there are 2.
Okay. Hit us.
Okay. Quiet guitarist fan. He says, I see people claim the church is apostate or will apostatize before second coming. What's a good way to respond to these claims? Do you agree or disagree?
You think the church is apostate there? Read that one again, Brittany. Just read it out loud so that because they're not asking me, they're asking the wise one, Jacob Hansen.
No, they're asking the beard, I think.
They're asking the beard. Okay, so ask away.
Okay, I see people claim the church is apostate or will apostatize before the second coming. What's a good way to respond to these claims? Do you agree or disagree?
Of course I don't think the church is apostate, because Russell M. Nelson is the Lord's prophet here on earth, and the quorum of the 12 apostles are the ones that have been chosen by the Lord. Now, is it possible for the church to go apostate? This is where I might have people get angry at me. I think it is, because human beings have agency. Do I think that it's going to happen? No. And I don't see any reason to think that is what's happening. The brethren, and I sustain the brethren, but you have to make that determination yourself. Each one of us has to look at what the brethren are teaching and doing, and then we sustain our leaders based on the testimony that we have of their divine call. And I will testify right now in front of everyone that I have a firm testimony that President Nelson and the quorum of the 12 apostles and his counselors are indeed the holders of the keys of the kingdom of Jesus Christ on earth today.
Okay, well, we know you have to say that because you're gunning for the red
Hey, I have a
chair up
question.
there
I have a question.
in Reno. But what do you say to those people? I'll get to your question in 1 second. What do you say to those people, Jacob Hansen, who say, okay, well, you know, if you really think if he were a prophet, he would have no problem, like Moses had no problem, like Jeremiah had no problem, like Lehi had no problem, standing up for basic decency, especially against anti-religious indecency. How come our church has not said to the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, hey, we stand with our Catholic brothers, and you've crossed the line from demanding tolerance, which we believe in, to engaging in anti-religious rhetoric? I mean, to me, censuring the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence for literally pole dancing on a crucifix of Jesus Christ is one of the most basic low-hanging fruits that a prophet could engage in. So I don't necessarily subscribe to all these Doctrine of Christ guys, but I know Jacob Isbell right now is probably yelling at his screen saying, proof Russell M. Nelson is not a true prophet, because he can't do basics like stand with the Catholics that stood with us during Prop 8. When they needed us, where were we?
So first I would say that I'm not going to say that the president of the church or any of the Quorum of the 12 are infallible in any way. But
then you admit that that's an error to not stand up for the Catholics right now.
I might have that opinion. I may or may not. But my opinion, like,
you just lost the red chair.
No, that's fine. I'm not gunning for it anyway. Here's what I would say, though, in all sincerity. There were lots of people, like Jacob Isbell would have left the church at the Kirkland Safety Society when it collapsed, okay? Jacob Isbell would have left. Because he would have been, if you were a real prophet, Joseph, you would have been able to see that the Kirkland Safety Society was going to fail. And you know who else he would have left? He would have left Jesus. Because they would have been like, if you were the real Messiah, you know what you would do? You'd be standing up to the Romans, and you'd be leading the zealots in the war against the Romans. You have to remember, Jesus lived in the time of what literally was like Hitler. Okay? And so and he didn't really fight against Caesar. He had his own way of going about things.
Okay. I kind of see where you're coming from. Of course, I would prefer just to invite him on the show and have him argue with you. You know what I'm saying?
I'd love to argue with him.
But
hold on real quick. I gotta put this on mute for 1 second, and I gotta go take care of something. I think there's just a little family emergency outside. I'll be right back.
Oh, they're protesting. They're protesting.
They're protesting.
Yeah, they're protesting your participation in this horribly bigoted live stream. Okay, so I'm just going to mute him in case there's some really embarrassing family drama that comes out of that. Okay, good. So now do you have another super chat for us to read, Brittany, really fast while we're going?
I believe so.
Hit it. By the way, have you been eating this whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been at dance all day. I'm famished.
Well, at least you're not slurping. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I have to hurry and drink this because it's getting like all watered down and it's gross.
No,
it's actually kind of gross right now, but I'm still drinking it.
Okay, so. I got mine too, so hit it.
Okay. Minor Prophet Ian Malcolm says, shout out to Sam Harris for poisoning a whole generation against agency towards nihilism. His cancellation was epic and warranted.
Okay. Well, I hate cancel culture.
I don't know who that is.
Sam Harris?
Yeah.
Oh, Sam Harris is an internet philosopher. Jacob Hansen is a huge fan of him.
I don't like philosophers, so
you know, well, they are boring, and he doesn't make sense. He's kind of like the really, really smart kid in high school that doesn't like to admit that he gets back at the jocks in his middle age by writing more books than them and getting invited to more seminars than him. But he just can't get his childhood trauma out of the way to reach the fully logically consistent end game.
Well, he should go see John DeLynn. I'm sure that can get all straightened out.
Yeah, exactly. And he's lost horribly to Jordan Peterson and some others in some debates, and he'd probably lose to Jacob Hansen. By the way, Jacob, are you still married? Was the family drama? What? Can you tell us? Is it anything juicy?
I actually got a text message that my wife is coming down with a migraine, and so but we got the situation covered for at least the time being. So
multiple doses of caffeine. and tons of ibuprofen and bear. You know what I'm saying? So we fully endorse modern medicine. By that we mean copious amounts of over-the-counter painkillers. But anyway,
or not over-the-counter. No,
ooh, we did not say that on YouTube.
No.
You know what I'm saying? We endorse only responsible behavior. So, okay, anyway.
You have another super chat.
Oh, we got another super chat. Hit the other super chat.
Jonah Barnes.
Ooh, Jonah, hit it.
He says, great testimony of the prophet. Amen. Money, 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 money. $.
Oh, yeah, dude. So you're just straight. You're just, we're going to call you DJ Cash Money. Jacob Cash Money is going to be your rapper name. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So anyway, let's go back to your video that we're watching right here and see the rest of. This is brutal. I mean, it is bad out there, my man. It is bad. I didn't believe it was like that bad. It was kind of crazy. But I'm just going to skip ahead here a little bit, and we'll see what's going on. This one, this looks kind of crazy.
A man can already reproduce their own biological offspring together. Transgender men who desire fatherhood as gestational dads can even nurse their babies in a practice called chest feeding.
Have you guys talked about non-monogamy on your show at all?
We have talked a bit about it. We even talked about it on Sean McCraney's show. I identify as polyamorous. I guess I'm just your classic ex-Mormon, ex-Mormon hippie.
And what does that mean to you?
I don't know.
Okay,
It's been a lot of fun.
Okay.
Fun
Go if you want. You can go back to it a little bit.
Okay.
Read his body language when he gets asked that question. What does he immediately do? He like rubs his eye. He's like, how do I deflect?
You know, and I got to tell you, I'm not seeing her, his girlfriend. That girl, right? My heart breaks for her. She's tall. She could be so beautiful, and classy, and just she should be married with like 3 kids, coaching the freaking volleyball team, madly in love with a beautiful husband that is amazing. She is totally like a rich power couple, husband's wife that is on cloud 9, having just lived the dream. But instead, she has to listen to a guy talk about how he has amorous relationships with multiple women without consideration for her. I'm not seeing somebody who's really convinced of their own argument right here.
Well, yeah, they're very stiff.
Hold
they're
on,
not,
let's see.
They're not confident in their decision.
Non-monogamy on your show at all?
We have talked a bit about it.
See?
We even talked about it on Sean McCraney's show.
This is not a woman that looks stoked about this.
No.
I identify as polyamorous. I guess I'm just your classic ex-Mormon, ex-Mormon hippie.
And what does that mean to you?
I don't know. It's been a lot of fun. Fun too, just fun. It doesn't have to all be like so spiritual or whatever, because it is just feels good.
Okay.
My heart breaks for her.
Yeah, she looked very sad.
He gets to morally justify his acts all over.
She won't even look at the camera. She's just staring at him like, okay, I guess, yeah, this is the path we've taken.
And she's got the same LGBTQ feminist gun to her head too. He is self-identified as polyamorous now. He has contextualized his polyamory and his cheating under the guise of a sexual orientation now, which is protected. And you're not allowed to say that you disagree with polyamory if that's now the way he worded it was very specific. So it's off limits now, or else the Human Rights Campaign can put you and your company on that list of bigots for simply saying you shouldn't cheat on your significant other.
Do they realize that hedonism isn't a new thing? That like this has been going on. Like hedonism is one of the oldest human philosophies that are out there. And just like wild sexual, do whatever you want with whoever you want. And guess what? There's a reason that human beings nearly universally have rejected that impulse. It's because it doesn't work and it leads to misery for everyone involved. It may seem like a good idea for like a really short amount of time, but when you're a kid and you think it's a really good idea to just eat all candy all day long and have no sort of an order to your diet, you find out eventually that there are consequences to these sorts of things. And so the level of intellectual bankruptcy in people who think that they like, oh, I've discovered this great way of life now. And it's like, no, you haven't. You have
burn down the sexual order that actually creates the ability to have families and stable societies. And if everyone lived like you, it'd be a mess.
Okay, then what would you say to the people that are screaming at the screams right now saying, okay, well, what about polygamy? Everything you just described, it just describes polygamy.
Polygamy is not polyamory in any sense of the word. Polyamory is basically polygamy without marriage. Marriage under certain circumstances, and just so you know, I don't believe that polygamy is the norm. In fact, Jacob 2 seems very clear that the norm is monogamy, and polygamy is an occasionally authorized exception that the Lord makes under extraordinary circumstances. But even under polygamy, the people are married. They're committed to one another. They have that commitment. In polyamory, there's no commitment.
Okay.
It's not to use the crass phrase, but it's sort of like you get the milk without having to buy the cow. I know that's probably a terrible way of putting it. I've heard people, make that analogy, but the idea is there's no responsibility in it. The thing is, guess who really benefits from it? Guess who benefits?
I've heard people make that analogy. Oh yeah, you've never said it yourself. You've only heard people make that analogy. Some people might ask.
It can come across as sexist, but the reality is that there's nothing more sexist than polyamory. Because you want to know who gets hurt the worst by polyamory? It's the women. The men, believe me, men win with sexual promiscuity over women every step of the way, because sex has higher consequences for women than it does for men.
Yeah.
Okay, dude, hardcore. All right, well, let's go to the next one right here, my man. Let's see what our friends have to say right here.
It just feels good.
Okay, I want to calm down a little bit because I want to tell you guys more about how I really started figuring out that I was attracted to women. And it shouldn't be a sad story. So as you guys know, I'm in a very happy, committed, straight relationship, and I hadn't explored that part of myself at all. And then you guys all encouraged me to get a TikTok. And I know.
Wait, who are the you guys, Jacob Hansen? You did all of this inquiry.
Her followers. So this is Ex-mo Lex. She did a video coming out as bisexual. There's nothing in her history that would have suggested that she was bisexual in any way. She's in a straight relationship. She even admits that. So she eventually was convinced that she was bisexual by her. Well, she'll kind of tell the story, but her followers, she's super big amongst Gen Z Ex-mos. That's kind of her main audience. And so her audience is like, you need to get a TikTok.
Let's see.
It's going to sound like so cliche and silly because there's a lot of TikTok jokes about, TikTok turning women into lesbians. I had seen some of that, but as I was on TikTok and I started seeing a lot of videos also about people would make these videos that were just really meant to be silly and fun, but they would say things like, what your favorite movie character says about you. Every single time I watched one of those videos and I was waiting for my thing, they'd be like, you're bisexual. And that made me laugh because well, I'm not. That's when I started to think about it more. I didn't think that I am bisexual because, these random little things make me bisexual. But it did make me think what if I am though? What if I was? I've never ever considered that before. And so it was kind of from there where I just let myself question and let myself think about it in a way that I never had before. And over the next several months to a year, I let myself question that. It was after a lot of introspection and a lot of thinking about it. I finally reached the point where I realized that yes, I actually am attracted to women the same that I'm attracted to men, and it's something that I've never even considered until I was kind of able to break away from the church's heteronormative viewpoints.
Oh, wow. So I have the anti-Mormon. Wait, what'd you say?
Social contagion. Anyone who's familiar with what a social contagion is, you just witnessed how social contagions can affect a person's sexual identity.
Okay, I was going to say I've got my list of anti-Mormon rules, and I can't remember if it's number 7 or it's number 10, but they always never refute scripture. They only fulfill it. And the second is they always live up to every negative stereotype. And she herself says TikTok has a stereotype of turning women lesbian, and anti-Mormon atheism has a stereotype of, as she in her own words says, turning them lesbian, and then says, I've been turned lesbian. And so I think, wow, then why would you get angry about it when people say, oh, they can leave the church, but they can't leave it alone? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It seems like there's just internal cohesive logic there, right? So, okay, wow, that is crazy. And I guess the last one, pick another one. Should we just watch the next one as the last one, or what? I mean, we're already in 14 minutes of overtime here, bro. You know what I'm saying? We'll just pick one at random here. I'm just going to spin around here, and eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch tiger by the toe. If y'all let him go, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And oh no, that's the assisted suicide person. We already did that one. Let's see here.
Can already
Maybe go to the one where we talk about Quaku.
Hinges on people's stuff.
Where they talk about Quaku?
Yeah, about black people in the church.
Oh, this one was brutal. Okay, yeah, right. This will be our outro. I can't believe I saw this when it first came out, dude. It was like, are you kidding me?
Of color ever?
Well, because it is through their liberal
deciding to.
Okay, here we go.
Real
enough
quick,
revolutionary.
this is John DeLynn talking about black people in the church.
Yeah, exactly. So here we go. Whew, I couldn't believe it.
Here's what John DeLynn said about black people in the church. So all you black members, here's his opinion of you.
Yeah, here we go.
Mindsets. So
with the internet, can you imagine an intelligent person of color ever deciding to join Mormonism? Like, isn't that like I don't want to be mean or insulting, but isn't that story in and of itself kind of mind-blowing? That's like some serious internalized hatred, self-hatred, because like, how in the world can Mormonism not be racist? Like, I'm racist.
Is that he doesn't speak like many black people do. He has like a very English vernacular. He doesn't have like a black dialect. So he speaks like a proper white person raised in Utah. So he's the perfect figure for Mormonism, because he's basically like seems like a white person with dark skin. The way he talks, the things he likes, the way he dresses.
Okay.
Let me ask you a final.
Oh my.
That's super cringe. That's just
gosh.
Straight up racist.
That is so like, dude. One more time for good measure.
No, I can't.
One more time. Listen to this.
I don't want to.
Because he's basically like seems like a white person with dark skin. The way he talks, the things he likes, the way he dresses.
Let me ask you a final.
Okay.
Who's that girl?
That a friend of John DeLynn's.
Okay.
Just traditional ex-smoke. And people say that the Mormon church is racist because in 1978 they didn't do what most people did in 1964. Meanwhile, in 2023, we all got to hear this one last time. I can't believe this. Full screen this cheese.
No, he's the perfect figure for Mormonism, because he's basically like seems like a white person with dark skin. The way he talks, the things he likes, the way he dresses.
Oh boy.
Let me ask you a final question.
Jacob, explain away that one philosophically,
I can't talk
bro.
after that one. I don't. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't think there's much to explain. It's just everyone knows that the most, if you really want to find out who the most racist people are, believe me, they aren't the people that you would think. These elitist, college-educated people are not the friends of black people. They utilize black people for their purposes to push agendas that they want. And there is, thank goodness, there are so many good, wonderful black people that see these people for what they're doing. And they're manipulating others into using race as a political and social tool to shame other people. But ultimately, their opinions are, you got to fit into the box that they've drawn for you. And if you go outside of that box, if you're a conservative black person, if you're a black person who's a member of the church, believe me, they have no respect for you, and you lose your black card because they give you the black card.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You know, it's kind of funny. I pulled up my anti-Mormon rules here, and here's the first 30 rules. All right, I've condensed them into 25 for my book. But one of the ones that I noticed is that where is this one? That they do not protect. Oh, it requires victimhood, not victory. Okay, so they're always trying to establish victimhood. But rule number 3. No, sorry. It's number 3 on here. Haven't given a rule number yet. But they traffic in human misery. Racism caused human misery. Slavery was human misery. Anti-Mormons traffic in human misery. They do not protect marginalized groups. They perpetuate them, exploit them for profit, votes, or personal gain, then drop them the second they're not useful because they never saw their inherent unconditional value as humans in the first place. That is John Dehlin right there. Zero censure of that woman. He did an entire interview with her and did not see fit to censure them. Right now, Christians are a religious minority for sure in Los Angeles, definitely in Portland. Yet John is out there cheering on in the name of social justice. Anybody who's defiling and defacing, at least for sure, definitely not condemning it. I have no forward-facing condemnation of any of that violence that I've heard from John. And he got busted. He got busted by the guys on a conservative show that I helped produce called You Ain't Black for a lot of these heinous comments about self-loathing African-American people, basically calling them an Uncle T. And she was equally lambasted, and he did nothing to censure her and was nodding his head and agreeing basically inherently when she said that Kwaku was, he spoke correctly for Utahns. And, the only apology he gave that he felt forced to, I'm sure, because, he did the unspeakable. Okay, was not even on his he did this on the Mormon Stories podcast channel, but he did this apology just on some personal little channel that nobody subscribes to on cyberspace, just so he could say he apologized. But yeah, so I think basically we could wrap this up because I know you got places to go.
We have a super chat,
Jacob. But the point of Jacob's video here, and then we'll get to the super chat, but the point of Jacob's video here was to show just the depravity and the evil, the badness, the indecency, the cruelty that is the logical conclusion of all of this anti-religious behavior, and to show that this goes from being a drag show to being this on the cross of Jesus Christ very quickly if we don't stand for very specific values and say, hey, no. There is a line. We support your First Amendment right, but we also demand respect and support for ours as well. And Jacob, I think, did a really good job of compiling a supercut that shows all the different things that all of these ex-Mormon, anti-Mormon, atheistic people have said. We recommend you go check it out. Okay, here is the link. You can see it on your screen. It's titled, I don't want to botch this one, but I want to make sure that everybody can see it right here. It's titled By Their Fruits, John Dehlin, Bill Reel, RFM, Nuance Ho, Zelf on the Shelf, and more. You guys can go check it out. Do you have any last words you want to say? We're not kicking you out. If you want to stay, you can stay, my man. But if you got to go, you can go. Let us know. Let's read him the last super chat, and then do you have any final words? Super chat and then final words, Jacob Hansen. What's a super chat, babe?
It's just a super chat. There's no comment from
okay.
Dean. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dean.
Thanks, Dean.
And any last words, Jacob?
Just that by their fruits ye shall know them. I ended with a scripture at the end of that video about we've been given to judge. It's given unto us to judge the light from the darkness. And what you will find when you look at the fruits of living the gospel is you find light, you find families, you find life, you find prosperity, you find people being able to be comforted and strengthened and empowered. And what you find when you go down the deconstructionist route that these people have taken is you find darkness, you find misery, you find a disdain for life, a seeking of shallow pleasures, basically to drown your nihilistic sorrows in, because your life ultimately doesn't have any meaning or purpose. So it's up to you to choose. Where are you going to go? If you're going to leave the Savior, well, then where are you going? And that's kind of the question that I asked at the end of the video, where are you going to go? And these people who are going to these icons of ex-mo atheism, like, you're going to the wrong place, guys. Like, and even if you're not coming back to the church, you can find better than these people. I truly believe that. So seek out light and stay away from the darkness.
Amen.
Okay. Oh, well, you got an amen from Brittany the Shadow. That's about as good as it gets right there.
Doesn't come often.
So anyway, okay, cool. Where can people where can people find you if they want to follow your stuff, my man? How can they engage with Jacob Hansen?
Yeah, so come on over, just go to YouTube and look up Thoughtful Faith, and you can see my videos there. I also have a website, thoughtful-faith.com, and there's links there to the YouTube channel, to a podcast channel. I'm going to start getting podcasts back onto that channel, so don't worry about that for those who were upset that those weren't happening. And then I also have a Facebook forum, Thoughtful Saints, where we get together and bicker over these things. It's a little rough and tumble, so I just want to warn everybody. It's if you want to stay to the more polished stuff, stick to the videos on YouTube.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, you, my man, are free to go whenever you want. Thanks for hanging out with us. Just make sure you mute it, so if you have anybody hollering at you, that there's you don't embarrass yourself. And me and Brittany are going to carry this one home. So thanks for hanging out with us, Jacob.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Adios. Everybody, just make sure that you follow Jacob Hansen. He's a super cool guy. Also, before we go any farther, I got to make sure that we give a shout out for ourselves, our own live stream. If you haven't had a chance to like this stream yet, please smash that like button. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please make sure that you subscribe. Okay, we're gonna go back to Dodger Stadium just for a split second. It looks pretty intense down there. I mean,
is it still going on?
Well, right now it's 8:29, so it's just barely started to darken. And the game started at 7:10, okay? But I got to tell you, I don't see how this kind of crowd goes away slowly. I mean, that is a big crowd. And for anybody that's ever engaged in any kind of political discourse or ever showed up to a rally, that is Vin Scully Avenue, guys. That road connects straight with the I-5 freeway. And if they're getting to a point where they shut down roads, I mean, that's reminiscent of the BLM riots. And those BLM riots just end because, oh, hey, the game started, we got to go, okay? I mean, these are some seriously committed and dedicated people. And I got to tell you, if they've got the ex-sheriff there, I mean, I doubt law enforcement is like, okay, bum rush this guy off the stage, I mean, this looks like it's been a pretty intense event, and I don't see how that's going to go away anytime quickly. If there's anybody that has any friends that they know for a fact are actually down at this event, I would love to catch up with them and see what's going on. But yeah, to me, I think it would have to disperse. I believe in Los Angeles, all protests have to end by 8, or else they can legally do the sound ordinance, start pushing you out of there. And the truth is, Christians, they're always a pushover because they believe in upholding and sustaining the law. So they're like nice protesters, you know what I'm saying? So watch a rumble breaks out like it just did against Antifa down in Glendale only a week ago, and I totally have to eat my words. But yeah, it's pretty intense. Brittany, what did you think about that video that we saw?
The protest video just now? Or the anti?
Yeah, just Jacob Hansen's video.
I could barely listen to it. I don't know. It just seems dark. Like my soul just doesn't vibe. I mean, I'm kind of new age. Oh, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I believe everyone has an energy, and their energy just seems so low. Just such low vibration that it's just... my soul does not jive with it. Let's say that.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to pull up. This will be the last little interview as we're going through here and we're looking at all the different. Twitter is actually one of the best places to follow protests because it's one of the fastest algorithms to get out there what's going on. I saw this interview previously, and I think it's very important. I said at the beginning of this that I want to I said at the beginning of this that I want to respectfully engage in this dialogue, because I get that there's people that say, hey, I don't have the same religious views as you. And hey, you know, I have freedom of speech, and I'm a total comedian. You need to protect comedians, okay? And this cancel culture has started going after comedians. Dave Chappelle saved comedy because he stood up to cancel culture at great personal expense for nearly 2 or 3 years. And when they come after the comedians, that's when you know that society is cankerous and is fallen. And so I'm a huge fan of comedians, but there's comedy, there's rough comedy, there's shock jock like Howard Stern in the 80s and 90s before he turned into a total pansy. Then there's like edgelord comedy, which is like, you know, Mountain Dew H word did nothing wrong, okay? And then there's just like, it's no longer comedy, it's just cruel. Like, I don't know, those weirdos that abuse cats and leave them in parks. Like, that's not funny. That's cruel. It's inhumane, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of wonder what room there is left for the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to stand on if they're claiming comedy as their ethos, when what they're doing is really just cruel, something that wouldn't be done. The litmus test for me is, would you do it on an Indian burial ground? And so, you know, I get that rule doesn't apply, and we can make fun of our own less than we can make fun of somebody that's not our own. Like, I get all of that, but I'm just saying these guys haven't really convinced me that they're engaged in a respectful dialogue, so I don't feel like they can really demand too much respect. And if you're demanding respect, then you better have shown respect. So here's the last little interview. Yeah,
I have something to say. Okay, I think everyone remembers Will Smith, right? The slap heard around the world.
Oh yeah, that was a big one.
Everyone was shocked by that, right? Like, oh my gosh, he just went on stage and slapped the guy.
Yeah.
Why are people not as equally shocked by this? It seems like some people are just turning a blind eye, yet those are the same people that were shocked when a guy got slapped by another guy. Like,
so what's interesting now is, remember how I said I think Utah is a less wholesome place for children to grow up now than Los Angeles is, because here the fever is broken. I want us to analyze. This will be the last thing that we analyze, because I do want to give grace to our intellectual opposition here. And I do want to say, hey, you know, there's two sides of this argument. I want to be respectful of both sides. So here, let's see. Here's somebody interviewed, one of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. If I remember correctly, I haven't seen this whole interview, but we can analyze it. I believe I scanned it for profanity, but I don't remember all the details. But let's see exactly what they said here, because what's hilarious is Latinas are leading the charge. I don't know if this lady is Italiana or Latina, but in California, at least, it's hilarious. They chased away all of those evil, misogynistic, middle-class, white, I don't even dare call them people, because they were less than people. But they're all gone now. And what's funny is it's the rise of the American Latina that is going to these school board meetings and saying, hey, no, enough of this pornographic nonsense in our school library. You know, enough of this ideology getting pushed on my kid. And the bureaucrats don't even know what to do. They can't touch it because they're like, oh, we're so used to be able to just push you out of the school board calling you racist. But how do we do it? You're a woman. You're Latino. We can't call you racist. So what's interesting is, had I done this interview, I would have been immediately called a bigot. But here we've got this young woman approaching one of the brothers dressed as a sister nun of Perpetual Indulgence. So here we go. Let's see what they have to say.
Not mocking, I'm using satire. You're absolutely mocking when you put Jesus. Not mocking, I'm using satire. You're absolutely mocking when you put Jesus on a cross and you pole dance on. Like our bullies, you are putting words in my mouth, and I really don't. Everybody's seen it. Everybody has seen it.
Well, it is kind of true. Everybody's seen it. It's not satire. You put Jesus on a cross and strip danced on him. Okay, just call it what it is. And by the way, at least just call it edgelord comedy. Like, just be like, yeah, we hit hard.
Yes, everyone has seen the satire that we do, and then they describe it in these terms that make them, oh, I'm being I am telling you, as a Christian, that is extremely, extremely offensive.
Okay, and by the way, let's pay attention to this. I remember throughout the 90s, offensive was the key word. You're offending me. You got to back off. You're being offensive. And the first one to cry offense won. And that's why all these intersectional groups gained their power, because they wrote strongly worded letters to all the Christian bureaucrats and administrators saying, I am offended. So remember here, liberals, offense is the key word. That's the dog whistle, that we are right. Okay, so let's go back and finish this interview, see what she says.
Extremely offensive when I see my God on the cross mocked.
Offensive. You're using your God to make me look bad, to make me look foolish, to beat me up.
Okay, well, I mean, if you're saying you look foolish dressed like this and then want to claim that it's not, but I mean, it's kind of, you're dressed purposely to look. I mean,
this seems like a breakup. It's not you, or it's not me. It's you, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The first person that falls apart intellectually always loses. And by the way, the first one to get angry always loses. So this is interesting. Let's see who gets angry first.
Ooh.
Why can't you just say, yeah, that was wrong?
That's a really good point. Why can't you just say, hey, look, we realize we may have crossed the line, and in comedy sometimes we cross the line. If I actually hurt you sincerely, I apologize. That was not my intent. Let's see if she says that. Or the sister of Perpetual Indulgence. Let's see if the sister of Perpetual Indulgence says this.
Could just say, yeah,
Because
that was
it is
wrong.
not wrong to heal people who were beaten and shot for being gay and trans. How dare you, madam? How dare you shame us?
Okay, this is so interesting. So he says, we were the marginalized group that was hurt. Okay, and then how dare you, which is a call to societal decency, the social contract, the social norms that surround us establish what is decent and what is indecent. Well, to this, madam, I would say, okay, well, how dare you cross-dress and then strip on a crucifix of Jesus? So at this point, to me, Sister Perpetual Indulgence on the right has lost intellectual high ground and moral high ground of claims of decency when she's saying our indecency is okay because it's us, you know?
Right, like we're all told to like unpack our privilege, right?
Yeah.
It seems like that dude can't do that.
Well, yeah, and we really have to, like, at this point, can we just all admit that there's gay privilege? That there's queer privilege? Like, and this is documentable. I mean, if I were to go into HR of any Fortune 500 company, I could get summarily fired the day of for sneezing wrong towards somebody who I didn't even know was LGBTQ. But if they go in there and say, I felt that in June my gay pride was called into question or whatever, I'm gone. And I have to come home to my kids and I have to say, sorry, daddy got fired and he's got to go get a new job. And by the way, they're ruining me on social media, so I'll never be able to get another job in another Fortune 500 company again. You know, your average run-of-the-mill middle-class Christian male does not live this wildly privileged lifestyle, for sure not in the Fortune 500, for sure not in the Fortune 5000, for sure not in any kind of mid-sized to large company. They'll all change their logos for him in Los Angeles County. Like, come on, it's a hate crime to do anything. You want the Pledge of Allegiance said, you're a bigot. You want prayer in schools, you're a zealot. You think, oh, taxes are too high, you're freaking one step away from Hitler. So I can see why this interviewer on the left is saying, hey, hold on a second. And our sister Perpetual Indulgence immediately retreats into, oh, well, decency. That kind of got thrown out of the window when you started stripping on Jesus on the crucifix. But let's keep going.
How dare you shame us in our own Pride Festival, madam?
Okay, now I do have to say, if you go to a Pride Festival with a microphone, I think she's actually kind of right that, hey, we should be able to kind of do a little bit what we want to do here. It is kind of our turf, for lack of a better term. Now, as long as it's correctly advertised, keep the kids away. There's too many cameras around for me to think that you could get away with doing the crucifix stripper pole and not get lambasted in the court of public opinion for that one. But I do think that she's got a point on the interviewer. Hey, why are you coming to Pride just to tell me that I'm wrong? I'm on home turf and we got a permit for this, right? So, okay, it's like 3-1 right now, you know.
We're in public, one. We're on a public street.
In Pride, yes, in the middle of West Hollywood, in the Pride Festival, when we should all be celebrating. We can have differences, and you can tell I'm angry. We should be able to talk about our...
Why are you angry about me saying, look, I'm a Christian? When you put someone mimicking Jesus on a cross and pole dance him, that's offensive to me. That is deeply offensive. Why is that wrong to you for me to say that?
We're not making a mockery of them. Satire is not making a mockery of someone to offend those people.
How would you respond to him saying we're not making a mockery of Jesus or of Christians?
I mean, I don't have the words right now.
I can't defend that one. I can't defend that one. I don't.
What if we did something depicting a gay person in one of their most somber moments in their life, pole dancing all over them and making it like their lowest moment in their life is satire.
Satire is not a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
It's not a get out of jail free card. I cannot take a certain device on a school campus and say, oh, I was just satirizing what happens when people that are depressed and have mental problems take certain devices on school campuses and do those very bad things to many people on school campuses. 'Twas just satire. 'Twas a painted airsoft. The cops will look at you and be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the judge will look at you and be like, so I don't know if that one holds water. We're almost done.
That's offensive.
But I'm telling you, as a Christian, that's how it is interpreted, because that's what it is. You can sit here all day and say, that's not what we're doing, that's not what we're doing, but that is what you're doing.
Okay, wow, oof. I'm glad to see that people are standing up right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad to see that people are standing up right now. Final thoughts, Brittany.
I just feel like, I don't know, if we went to a Jewish synagogue and I was, I don't know, reading out of the Torah and I was just butchering the language, right? They would be like, okay, like, why are you doing this? Like, that's our religion and that's how, that's us.
By the way, Snagger brings up a good point. He says the John DeLynn meme was satire, and look what happened. All of the Exmos. Remember when Kwaku retweeted the beatdown scene from Inglourious Bastards, and everybody was like, "Oh, tis violence." You know, Snagger brings up a really good point that the beatdown meme was satire, and see what happened. So anyway, yeah, we're gonna end here in the next couple of minutes, guys. If you have any
I'm tired.
Oh, I know you're kind of tired. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It's been a big day.
Yeah.
We're here and we're just discussing what's been going down at Dodger Stadium with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence versus the Dodgers versus the Catholics, and covering that. If you're just joining us now, if you have any last super chats, if you have any kind of burning questions before you go, let us know. Before we do go, though, please make sure that you actually put a like on this. Share the stream with your friends. We try and live stream if we can Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You know, but usually we get Tuesday and Thursday streams in. This week we were lucky we were able to get 3 streams. Thanks for hanging out with us. Shout out, did any of you guys know a comic book artist? There's some intellectual properties that we were looking to develop here, both for Midnight Strike Through Mormons and our rebrand that is going to be happening in July. And I'm actually looking for a solid comic book artist or storyboard artist that I could collaborate with for some of these projects. They're going to be pretty awesome. It's kind of going to be a copy and credit thing to start out until they actually get off the ground. But if you are a comic book artist or an animator that can, you know, engage in some pretty cool artwork that could be somehow modified to become like comic book art or anything like that, please let us know. Reach out on the website. We'd love to know more. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Snagger, for hanging out with us. Rex Good is here. We've got, I think it's the first time I haven't seen Gaines Music hanging out with us. She's usually here, but shout out to everybody else, especially Jonah Barnes and all the other members that have been hanging out with us. Even Chris Murphy. Look, Chris is here. Good to see you, Chris. We're going to be hanging out with you guys again on Monday, hopefully, for the Call and Follow Me and the mailbag. Got some hilarious stuff coming this way. As I said before, if you haven't a chance to like this yet, please like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. This has been real and it's been fun. This is Midnight Strike Through Mormons. We will see you